This beast right here is the RF 15-35 f2.8, and this one over here is the 14-35 f4. One is a low light monster that you'll find almost in every pro's bag, while the other is a lighter, a touch wider, and a whole lot less expensive. Picking the wrong one isn't just a simple mistake, it's a pricing mistake that could generally affect your work for years. Now, I've shot with both, and I can tell you that there's one critical difference that goes way beyond the spec sheets. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which one is right for you. Hi, I'm Steve, and let's get to it. On paper, these two lenses seem to be competing for the exact same spot in your camera bag. Now, they're both professional L-series ultra-wide-angle zooms for Canon's mirrorless cameras, and they both promise incredible images, but they get there in very different ways. Now, in this corner, you've got the flagship, the Canon 15-35 f2, and this has been the go-to pro lens since day one. Its main claim to fame is that constant f2.8, and it's built for sucking in the light and blurring out backgrounds. But it comes with a premium price tag, typically around $1,900 to $2,200 USD at the time of this video. Now in this corner, we have the Challenger, the Canon RF 14-35 f4. Now this lens is Canon's answer for photographers who want pro quality without the pro level back pain. It swaps that f2.8 for a constant f4, but in return it gives you that extra millimeter on the wide angle lens and sheds some of that weight and cost. This one usually comes in around $1,300 to $1,600 USD, and again at the time of this video. Now this is a significant price gap, so the real question is, what are you giving up by saving all that cash, or what are you truly gaining by spending that cash? The answer is more than just a number printed on the lens. Before we even start peeping at pixels, the first thing you'll notice, the thing you'll really feel, is a physical difference. And this is not just a small detail. This dictates how and where you'll be willing to take this on your camera. The 15-35 is a substantial piece of kit. It weighs at 840 grams and it's about 1.85 pounds. It feels dense and robust and every bit of flagship it's meant to be. But when it's on your camera, you'll know it's there. It balances well, but it's a commitment. Then you pick up the 14-35 and the difference is immediate. This lens weighs only 540 grams at just under 1.2 pounds. That's nearly 300 grams lighter. Now, that may not sound like a ton sitting on your couch, but after a 10-hour wedding day or a 5-mile hike up a mountain, the difference feels enormous. Your whole setup becomes more nimble and less of a burden. For travel photographers, vloggers, or anyone who needs to pack light, this isn't just a feature, it's the whole reason this lens exists. This thinking continues right into the front of the lens. The 2.8 needs a very expensive 82mm filter, whereas the 4 uses a much more common and affordable 77mm filter thread. This means you might already have those filters in your kit. So for sheer real-world practicality, the f4 wins this round, hands down. It's the lens that you're more likely to throw in your bag without a second thought. But practicality isn't everything, especially when your image quality is on the line. This is it. This is a single detail that you should make or break that decision for you. The difference between the constant 2.8 and the constant 4 aperture is the most important factor here, and it has a huge implication on your work. Well, let's be clear. We're talking about one full stop of light, and what does that actually mean? It means that the f2 lens can let in twice as much light as the f4. This gives you two massive real-world advantages. First, low light shooting. Imagine you're at an indoor event or a dimly lit church or shooting a cityscape after sunset. With the 15-35 at 2.8, you might get clean, sharp handheld shots at ISO 1600. To get that exact same brightness with the 14-35 f4, you have to double your ISO to 3200. And while most cameras are amazing at high ISOs, a lower ISO will always give you a cleaner file with better colors and really more flexibility. Now, for astrophotographers, that extra stop of light is non-negotiable for capturing stars. The second advantage is the depth of field. A wider aperture like 2.8 lets you create more separation between your subject and the background, and this gives you that beautiful bokeh or background blur. If you're a wedding or event photographer trying to isolate a couple from a messy background, or a videographer going for that cinematic look, the 2.8 is your tool. At 35 millimeters, the 15 to 35 2.8 can create a look that the f4 lens just can't match. This is a fundamental trade-off. That 2.8 aperture is a creative and technical superpower. If you regularly shoot in tricky lighting or depend on subject separation, this one detail alone justifies a higher price and extra weight. While the f2 lens clearly won the aperture battle, the f4 lens has its own ace up its sleeve, and that's written right on the barrel itself. It starts at 14 millimeters. Now, 1 millimeter may sound tiny and insignificant, but in the ultra-wide end, it's a surprisingly noticeable difference. That single millimeter gives you a wider field of view, letting you cram more of the scene into your frame. For a landscape photographer trying to emphasize a dramatic foreground with a sweeping mountain range behind it, that extra width is a powerful composition tool. For real estate and architectural photographers stuck in tight indoors, that 14 millimeters can be the difference between getting the whole room in the shot or having your back against the wall. The 14 to 35 f4 is simply just a wider lens that gives you a clear edge on those epic, expansive shots. So, while the f2 lens lets in more light, the f4 lens lets more of the world in, and that's a definite point in the f4's favor, especially if you live for those ultra-wide perspectives. So we have a lighter, wider lens versus a brighter, heavier one. But what about the actual images? When you get home and pull up those files on a big screen, does that price difference actually show up in the image quality? Well, first off, let's be real. These are both Canon L-series lenses. The sharpness on both are excellent, and you won't be disappointed with the images you get from either one. But when you really start to pixel peep, they do have different personalities. In the center of the frame, both lenses are tack sharp, even wide open. The 15 to 35 is impressive right from f2, and the 14 to 35 is just an outstanding for its center at f4. Most of the frame is pretty much a tie. It's when you look at the extreme corners that you see some differences. The 15 to 35 tends to be a bit sharper in the corners, especially at those wider apertures. However, there's a reason for this. The 14 to 35 f4 achieves its compact size and super wide 14 millimeter view by leaning more heavily on digital correction. In its raw, uncorrected state, the lens has a noticeable distortion and vignetting at 14 millimeter. Your camera and software like Lightroom fix this automatically and do a great job, but the process of stretching the corners makes them slightly bit softer. Now, the 15 to 35 has more traditional optical design with less inherent distortion, giving it a pure image from corner to corner before any software kicks in. Okay, we've been through the weight, the aperture, the focal length, and the sharpness. It's time to make the call. Not which lens is the better one, but for who each lens is made for. You should buy the 15 to 35 if you're a professional who can't afford compromise on performance. This is a lens that is for weddings and event photographers who walk into unpredictable lighting and need that f2.8 to guarantee a clean shot. It's for astrophotographers who need every last photon of light. It's also for videographers and high-end portrait artists who use that shallow depth of field for a creative impact. If your priority is absolute best low-light performance and creative control, and you can handle the extra weight and cost, this is your lens. It's the versatile workhorse. You should buy the 14 to 35 if you're a photographer who puts mobility and wide perspective above everything else. This is a lens for the landscape photographer or someone who hikes for miles and counts every gram of weight. It's for the travel photographer or vlogger who needs a high-quality compact kit that won't break the back or the bank for that matter. It's also for the architectural shooter who probably is on a tripod and stopped down to f8 anyway and will get more use out of that extra 1 millimeter width than they would out of the 2.8 aperture. If you need an L series quality in the lightest, widest package for your outdoor and travel work, this lens is made for you. Now, at the end of the day, there isn't a single winner here, just the right tool for the right job. The choice between the 15-35 or the 14-35 isn't about which one is better, but which one that you would value the most as a photographer. Are you buying the creative power of low light security f2, or are you buying the freedom and portability and the wider view of the f4? By focusing on how you actually use it, the decision will become much clearer. Don't just buy the lens that everyone says is the best. Buy the lens that best serves you for the work you do. Now, I hope this presentation has given you some information that you might need to help make your decision for your next purchase. This is Steve. I'll catch you in the next video.